Well, hey there, friend, and welcome back for another episode of the Your Hair Mentor podcast, where I'm your host and your hair mentor, Crystal Green. And I invite you to come take a listen to the top leaders and thinkers and experts and innovators in the beauty industry as they share their stories of triumph and struggles and success in creating their businesses behind the chair. I hope you enjoy these episodes just as much as I did recording them. See you on the inside, friend.
Thank you so much for coming on the Your Hair Mentor podcast. I'm super happy to have you here today and share this awesome stuff that you're working on. And also, I just kind of want to know a little bit about your story and how you got to be where you are. So would you do me a favor and just kind of give me a quick introduction of like where you're at? And then I kind of want to hear how you got into this industry in the first place.
Well, first of all, Crystal, thanks for having me on. It's a real honor and pleasure. Now, you said one thing that really might throw this a little thing off. You said quick, and I've often been introduced as, here's a gentleman that can say in 10 words what other people can say in one. So, listen, first of all, where did I come from? Well, I came from, my background was my mother was a hairdresser. She anointed me as a hairdresser. I didn't necessarily want to be one, but knew I couldn't get fired. So I started there. And then I had a life-changing thing that happened to me where somebody come in and said, don't cut my hair today because I'm going to Montreal to get a good haircut. I'm Canadian, if you haven't figured that out. And that changed my life. And so actually the first 2 years of my career was more the thing that as an owner, you wouldn't have wanted to hire me because I was interested in partying. It was partying and staying out till 2 to 3 in the morning and then coming in probably with a little bit of a headache. Must have been too much Coca-Cola. And my point is that I wasted pretty much the first 2 years. Then I got hooked on, I went to Sassoon's and I got hooked on hair cutting, and that became my passion. Then, and this is the Reader's Digest version of the timeline, opened a couple salons, then there was a gentleman that came to speak at a training we were having. His name was Blair Singer. He's one of the Rich Dad, Poor Dad advisors, speaks on wealth. He also speaks on facilitation skills. And that changed my life because I can remember him saying, let me back it up a second, because before, when I would teach on stage, I never really taught on stage. All I did was I would write my comedy routine, and I did more of a comedy routine than anything, to the point when I asked one person after they sat in my class for 6 classes in a row and said to me after every time that, Chris, I loved your show, I laughed and laughed. And I said, what did you learn? And she said, nothing, but I laughed and laughed. So I had to figure out what this training thing was so that I could actually teach the things that I was passionate about. And that's where Blair, and since then, other people have really helped me along, people like Jason Everett, who have helped me become more focused on what it takes to help to connect to people. Because I remember standing up in Blair's class after he talked to us how a good educator, facilitator, trainer connects with the audience. And he said, I remember saying back to him and stand up because he asked, what did you take away? And I said, so from Blair, from what I heard is, it's not what you say, it's not the content, it's how you say it. And that stuck with me forever. And that changed my life. And it turned me in probably to who I am today, where my point now is I just want to give back to people.
That's awesome. And isn't that a lesson that could be learned for hairstylists talking to their clients too, right? Where it's not necessarily just your hair skills, it's how you present them.
Yeah. And it's, I'm going to use I didn't come up with it. We hear it all the time. Part of it's true, part of it's not. But when they say that there's all these people out there that don't do hair particularly well, but they're fully booked, etc. So the reason why I say that I don't believe that's partially true, I think that it is true because those people are authentic, they're caring, they love their clients. And I know this is something you and I talked about before, and I don't want to steal your lines. It was your line that I want to use as references where you make them the hero. And I think that's the part that I would like those people to think about, that what if What if you did all of that and you really knew how to do hair?
Ooh.
If you were really skilled at it, how exponential could your growth be?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where what's always stood for me is because, with a bit of my Sassoon background, no, I never worked for them. I was a Sassoon freak and traveled to every show, everything. And people like Tony Beckerman and the like of those people really helped me to ingrain in what discipline really meant. And I think that for all the young listeners and watchers that are out there that are saying right now, and we went through COVID, we went through all that crap. We reevaluated our lives. We take a look at what we were doing. We said, I want more out of my life and more quality. Just to remember that quality and time are not a parallel that exchange for one another. In other words, when people say, I want to have balance. Balance just means that you're present wherever you are. It doesn't mean you give up and you do less of one thing or more of the other. So I always think that for me, that it's okay. I'm going to give a really controversial statement right now, if that's okay with you.
Bring it on. Bring it on.
Bring it on, baby. And I'm stealing a line from my good friend Stephen Moody, and he said our industry has shot ourselves in the foot. And don't get me wrong, what we're doing right now makes us a ton of money, and it's good. But we've spent the last 7, 8, 9 years balayaging long hair. Balayaging is wonderful. I love it. It makes us money. I'm not saying bad things about that. I'm not saying bad things about our hair. Here's where we shot ourselves in the foot. Cyclically, it goes long and it goes short. It goes long and it goes short. We spent so many years on long hair without retouching, without the serve client coming in, needing us every 6 weeks. They've transferred to every 3 to 4, sometimes 6 months or more. And that's where we've shot ourselves in the foot. Now, here's the reason why. You watch in the next 2 to 3 years, it's already happening. Short hair is starting to come back. And remember, not everybody's going to have short hair, but the people that want short hair are going to come out, and they're going to be looking for people that can do it. Our industry, I mean, I'm a part of a group that owns 30 beauty schools. And what happens is the students are terrified of short hair. Mm-hmm. And I go to teach in salons where they don't want trend right now. They want me to teach them how to analyze a picture so they can duplicate the picture and use principles of hair cutting to get what they want. And that switch is happening. And it's, everybody keeps talking about Armageddon, all this stuff that's coming. I think the Armageddon that's happening in our industry is it's going to hit us with this. Everybody wants short hair, just like in the 70s when Linda Evangelista cut off her long hair. Everybody wanted short hair. Everybody wanted above the shoulders. And there was this people flocking into salons. And if you knew how to do it, your salon grew. And that was the kind of the separation that happened. At that time, when it first happened, there was 3 kinds of salons that were out there. There was the high-end salon, there was the mid salon, and there was a low-end salon. At that time, it blew away the mid salon because everybody wanted cost, and they didn't want to have to pay a lot, or they wanted to pay more and they wanted all the things that went along with that. And I think that's what's going to happen in the next few years with us. So I would say that I don't want to discourage people by that, but what I want to say to them is that's where your education comes in. That's where your discipline comes in. That's where it's really important that you know all of the skills, not just 1 or 2.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I experienced even myself the other day going and getting my hair done in a salon here in Reno, Nevada. And my blowout was done by the junior stylist. She's not an assistant. She's like a couple years in, licensed stylist. Yep. And she asked me, how do you want your hair styled today? And I said, I would love just kind of like a bouncy round brush blow dry. Just something simple. It doesn't have to be perfect, but just something with a little oomph to it. And she goes, I'm really sorry, but I have to tell you, I don't know how to use a round brush. And I was like, oh, and I could tell by the way she was blow drying me. Like, she's like, I'll try. And I'm like, cool, I can help coach you through it if you want. Like, no pressure, but like, you should know how to do this, girlfriend. She's like, well, I mostly just do iron work. And I said, oh, okay. Well, like, what kind of iron do you use? She's like, my wand. I was like, okay, so you fall into that category of like, you've got that beachy wave dialed in, and that's all you've got. That's all that has been asked of you in the last couple of years. But I'm like, yeah, things are changing. I was like, I got these like little flippy bangs, and like I want
Yeah.
some oomph, and she did not know how to do it. And so I walked away going,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I don't think she's alone.
Yeah. No, I agree with you 100% on that, Crystal. And there's what I love that in your title that you have is your hair mentor. And I think that's where a lot of this is going to come from right now. The mentors that we had right out there have been YouTube. So, and that's all watch. And again, nothing wrong with that. I watch YouTube too. I pick up great ideas from them. There's some, spectacular people out there, but you can't get your foot stuck in one area, because you'll do great when that's there. But when a shift happens, you're on the outside, and it's going to be harder if you get in the inside. So the time to train, the time to learn is when that others is hot. Here's one thing that and I think the numbers are a little skewed from right now to when we talked about it in the past. But what happened is trends generally happen they take about 6 years. And we call it 2 years in, 2 years hot, 2 years out. So they kind of overlap. So 2 years in, it's hot. People think it's ugly. Well, let me rephrase that. The young kids that are out there, the ones that are cool, the ones that are looking at it, they go, oh, that's cool. Nobody's doing that. I want to do that. The mainstreamers are going, oh, that's ugly. Just the same thing as when skulls came in. Skulls came in. I believe it was Alexander McQueen did clothing, wedding dresses with skulls on it, and everybody went, "Oh my God, what are you doing? What's going on? That's verboten." And then but all the young kids went, "That's cool, that's new." They jumped on that bandwagon. Everybody else thought it was ugly. 2 years in, everybody was wearing it, and the mainstream is now going, "Oh, I thought that was ugly. It's pretty cool now." Soon as that hits, now those young kids are going, I don't know, mom and dad are wearing that. I don't know if I want to do that anymore. And then, and particularly when grandma has her knickers with skulls on it, they know it's really out.
Oh my gosh.
But the reality is it's 2 years in, 2 years out, or 2 years in, 2 years hot, and 2 years out. When it's out, the people that are just been holding back for 4 years are finally getting into it. And that's when you go to your hairdresser and they go, oh my God, if I have to do one more friend's haircut, I'm going to blow my brains out. No, we could cut that last part out.
Oh no, that's all right.
Is that if they see that one more friend's haircut and they say, well, I don't want to have that anymore because it's gone. It's passe. That's the thing that's happening right now. The times may be off. I think that what we've had with long hair and balayage has gone on for way more than 6 years. It shows how amazing it was. And, but I think that we need to really understand that haircutting is going to start to make its way back.
I think so too. I honestly hope so, because I love all the different shapes and styles that come with haircutting being a trend.
Yeah. Yeah. And I find it really interesting going to a hair show, where it's hair shows. And then I can't remember which premiere last year I think we were at, and I was walking down the aisleway and I was trying to count the number of really cool short heads of hair that I saw. And I counted about 8.
Oh my gosh. Out of how many people?
Out of all those people, but don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that those people weren't cool. I'm just saying that they're caught in that cycle of 2 years in, 2 years hot, 2 years out. And you can tell it with their colors. You can tell it with their shapes, what era they get stuck in. And I think it's sometimes that because of the psychology behind it, they do something, they made a change. They might have went from one color to putting some rainbow color in their hair. And somebody said to them, that looks amazing on you. And that anchors in their head, and they want to carry that through forever, because that was what somebody told me I look good on. Therefore, as I change and I grow and I change, my look stays the same. And now, is it the same response you're getting? And if you're not getting that response of, wow, you look great, that's one thing I always used to say to my clients, is that when they'd say, well, that I want the same thing. And I'd ask them why. And he said, because my husband loves it. And I said, okay, well, first of all, I never say go to the person who can't match their socks for fashion advice, but I do understand that you want your spouse happy and so on. But, are your friends complimenting your hair? And if that's the case, then you're probably still in and looking good. But if nobody is saying the thing that they said to you 5 years ago, maybe it's time to have a bit of a change and a refresh. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I love this so much because so much of what I preach is, right, the client is the hero of the story, like you mentioned briefly earlier. And what that means is you are a contributor to their happiness. You're like their guide and their mentor and helping them in the story of their life. And so it's so important to ask those kind of questions, right? Like, because what are we here to do? We're here to make them feel good. We're here to make them look good, right? If they're not getting the input and the feedback that they need from the people in their lives where they're feeling good about their looks, then we need to help them, right?
Yeah.
And I love that you bring that up, because that's such an important question that I've always asked all of my clients too. Yeah. How are you feeling in this style? Are you still getting what you need out of it? And if not, let me try to make some suggestions, and like, how out of your comfort zone can we step today? Right?
Yeah. Yeah. When you become an expert, people don't pay you for your knowledge. They pay for your opinion. So when you're going to a hairdresser that's your expert, that helps you, that's been growing you, grooming you, helping you evolve, that person is paying you for your opinion. And your opinion should not be, what do you want today? Your opinion should be, can we have a talk? And I'm going to give credit where credit is due. A Chapel Salon out of the UK has a really interesting concept that I absolutely love. You see, first of all, every time somebody comes in, they give a consultation. So everybody gets a consultation, everybody. It's not just a continuation on. And I'm not going to belabor the whole consultation things. And people say that 97% of the people that are out there that are consumers say they didn't get a consultation. And it's the same thing for hairdressers, say that they give it, or I'm saying the hairdresser says they give it, but only 7% of the people that are out there say they get it. So it's the quality of the conversation. So I'm going to get back to Chapel Salon. What they do is they spend, every time they come in, a portion of because they pay by the hour. The customer pays by time, not by the service. And so they spend that time giving a quality recommendation. And then here's what I love. So they book out and I don't say book out. If you're going to be my customer, we're going to set up 6 months of appointments. And in the spring and in the fall, we're going to book out a separate hour that we're going to have a complete consultation. And in that frame, we're going to talk about the new colors that are coming out for fall, the new looks that are coming out for fall, where you want to go, and how we're going to, now catch this, how we're going to evolve your shape over the next 6 months until we hit spring. And then we're going to evolve it again. Now you think about the dynamic there, not only that how you're grooming them, you're evolving them, and you're building trust with them, but they're not going to anybody else. If Chris comes along and says, hey, I can do your hair. No, Crystal's been doing my hair and she's got a whole plan for my next 6 months. Sorry, I just can't go there.
I've committed myself to a membership with this person that I'm going to see through.
Bingo. I've just bought a subscription.
Yes, I love that so much. That is incredible. And I bet you, like, if something happens, apocalyptic, recession-wise, whatever, those sort of businesses are going to survive. They are going to thrive. They're going to make those people feel so special, and their clients and their customers and their consumers are going to be willing to cut budgets elsewhere so that they can still be taken care of there because there's loyalty.
Yeah. And that's what did happen in the Great Recession that happened. I mean, I wasn't alive for it, but in the 30s, when they had that, people were still making themselves good. They were making themselves look good. That was the whole part about it. That's the only thing that they had that they could feel good about at the time.
Yes. Yes. Because
So my
even,
mom tells me.
yeah, right. But you see it in other countries too. Like, you don't need money to have like a pride of ownership necessarily.
Right.
You focus on certain things. And a lot of people want to have their home look clean and tidy, and they
Mm-hmm.
want to look good themselves because that boosts their spirits and makes them feel like, nice contributing members to society.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. 100%.
I love that. Okay, Chris, I want to ask you about your Salon Associate Accelerator Program because we chatted about that beforehand, and I feel like we
Yeah.
could tie this in really well here. So, can you tell us
Well,
kind of what that is a little bit?
well, yeah, I would love to, but let me give you kind of a forerunner, a precursor on this.
Okay.
Is the need that our team saw was there's two kind of things that I hear from salon owners everywhere. Is two things. Number one is um, I'm training my people and they leave. Excuse me. I train my people and they leave. And the other one was this new generation of people. I just can't relate to them. They don't want to work. They don't want to do anything. Both are true. I want to deal with the first one first and just with a little story that I remember hearing this story of this. There was a corporate meeting and the CFO, the chief financial officer, and was meeting with the team. And the chief financial officer said, look, at our training that we're doing with all of our people is costing us too much money. It's a big line on our budget. And I want to pose to people like, that we reduce the training and stop training them so much, because what if we train them and then they just leave and go to another company? And the chief executive officer, the CEO, said, well, okay, that might work if you're worried about if we want to train them and they leave, but what if we don't and they stay? So the reality is that when you're going to train people, it's our obligation as an owner to train. Here's the problem that generally happens is the owner does all the training. And then they're trying to get the vision of their business going. They're trying to do all the work. They have a family just like everybody else. They're cutting out their time. They're often the highest ticket earner. And because nobody wants to work after hours nowadays, they have to do the training during the salon. They do the training during salon hours. So now they have two factors that are in there financially. Number one is I've taken myself away from the station, so therefore I'm not generating revenue. And if you think about what that is, and let's just say that it's an average ticket is $100 an hour, and they've taken, let's say, just even 2 to 4 hours to train, that's $400, and then you times that by, even if you're just doing one training a week, times 50 weeks and so on. I'm not the math guy, so anybody listening and watching right now, you can get out your calculators and do that.
None of us are. It's okay.
No. So, but the reality is the time that it takes, and it ends up with either the owner and or an educator that you have on board. If they're doing it all themselves, they get burnt out. And then it doesn't happen. And then the promise that you made of training up the people doesn't get met, and they leave. And it's this cycle. It's like this, like the front door, Bergdorf Goodman's, when you take that, you walk in, and if you keep going, you just jump back out rather than getting into the good stuff. And it's the same thing that happens in the salon. So that's the first part about what if you train them and they leave. And then the other part is the young kid that's out there. They want balance. They went through all this stuff. They want balance in their life. But more than anything, if you look at them right now, they're cause driven. So what are you doing to create a cause for your salon, for the vision of where you want to go? People will buy into a vision, and money is not a vision.
No.
So, but they will buy into your vision. I'm not saying you shouldn't be compensated. You should be compensated a lot for it. But what are you doing to create something that those kids want in the future? It's funny, just on this just a couple of days ago, I was speaking and somebody came up to me after and he said, your definition of want versus goals was it really impactful for me. And what this came from a training that I did, and I was trying to find out what this particular person wanted as a goal, and it went just down this dark hole, and I couldn't pull them out of it. So I have a teacher that clears people. Clearing just means when you have issues in your head, and they help you talk about it and get through it and so on. And she said to me this, that it was really interesting. It's funny. When she told it to me, I wrote it and I have it every time right near me here. And she said, and I mark this, goal setting often brings up a negative charge, because if we didn't get the goal in the past, we'd set a goal, we didn't get it, doing whatever. So we feel we're failed at our goal. So there's that negative charge. So the emotions come up. And so that's what happened from past fails goals. But if you, instead of saying that it's a goal, if you say, what do you want? It brings it into the future. So if the salon owner would we advise this in our Salon Associate Accelerator, is before you even start your training, sit down in a want meeting. And the want meeting can be very fast. And we have sheets that we get them to fill out, where you fill out the things that you want for personal development, or just to improve for your career. What do you want personally? I want to buy a new house. I want to buy a new car. I want to get out of my rental unit, or I want whatever that is. And then what is it that you want for yourself for the future? Like what's about for family? I want to take my family on a European trip, or I just want to be able to pay my own. We're going to Europe in 2 years, and I want to have enough of this. And if that owner can take a look at what are your wants, help you to get that. And if that just means taking a little bit of money out every month, every week, just to set aside, set up a bank account for that person, so that now what you're dealing with here is you're building up a loyalty or a trust in the person. Because I'm not just looking at how much money can you make me, I'm investing in your future. And that cause-driven effect, I don't know about you, but I'm getting goosebumps up and this right now. But if you can invest in that person's life and you can make a change to them where they grow, they attribute that to you. I learned that inadvertently from Bill Ross, who was one of my very first, not my first salon owner, but the first salon owner that made a difference in my life. And he would do that with me inadvertently. It wasn't called that then, but he said, look, Chris, what do you want? Where do you want to go? What do you want to do? And I had no money. And I said, I want to go to Sassoon's. And he said, look, well, let's make that happen. Here's how we're going to do it. And so on. And so that was pivotal in my life career. And if I wouldn't have had somebody that would help me along on that, I'm not saying I would have never got there, but I wouldn't have got there sooner. And so to this day, I trust, I respect that person changed my life. Even though when I said, look, I want to leave, but I want you, I would just as soon you and I made a partnership together. And he said, okay, let's do it. But then he said, no, Chris, you're better on your own. And you know what he did? He took me to the bank and he explained to the bank why at that time I was a bad risk, why I was a good one. And when I left, he said, Chris, here's your 3 months bookings that you have. I've all told him where you work,
That's
and
amazing.
And so it's when you do that for people, when you do that for the young kid, if you're going to do that, for those of you listening right now, I've got this grizzly old white beard and hair and so on. So you're probably going, who the hell is this? But I've learned that you've got to help people along. You've got to help them in their mission of what they want to get out of life. And it's an old saying, but if I give you what you want, then you'll give me what I want. It's not the other way around. I've got to give first.
Man, Chris, as I'm listening to you describe all of this, I can't help but literally consider what you just described as a consultation. It's all the same principles and the same ideas, right? Like earlier, how I said, oh, you put the client with the stylist and the client interaction, right? The client is the hero of the story. I always tell people to figure out what their desires are, their wants, just like you said, right? Where do they want to go in their life with their hair? How can you help them? How can you set the stage for this is our relationship that we're having together? It's literally the same thing, but it's the salon owner putting the stylist as the hero of that story.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're the mentor and they're the guide. And so I love this so much because I feel like you can step back so many layers, right? And the same principles apply, but we try to just get in our heads and get all confused about stuff. And it's like, it can be so beautifully simple. So I just had to share that like, as you're describing this, I'm like, oh my God, yes, it's a consultation. It's literally a consultation.
It's a life skill.
Yes.
You know, is if you want to get things out of life, you have to know how to communicate to people. It's just like, and, you know, again, I'm a hair cutter. So for the people that's scary right now, just, you know, listen to me anyway. But I always knew that I had an eye where I could tell what looked great on people, but I wasn't so bold and so in your face that I would say, this is the only thing that is going to help you. This is what you must do. So in other words, I had no problem. Somebody had long hair and I saw them with short hair. I knew that that's where they needed, but I also know that some people want to do it right away and some people need steps. So I would never go to somebody and say, you should wear your hair short, because if they said no, well, then I'm kind of out in left field. But if I could say to them, listen, I've got some ideas, and I've got about 3-4 ideas that I want to run by you, and I'll talk to you about them. And then I'd love to know which one excites you the most. And then you can go anywhere you want. You know, I can talk about, listen, I want to go, like, I'm just making stuff up right now. I'm coming from the University of MSU, making stuff up. I don't usually that word, but that making stuff up is, well, you can put any S word you want in there. But I would say to them, look at, you know, I'd love, this is what I really, this look, etc. This is what it would do to you. But also, okay, good. That's one side. Let's set that aside for a minute. And then I would talk about something that was more medium, or how we could transfer this length from one to the other. And inevitably, I would always get them to the end game, because I planted the seed, and some would bite right away and say, take it off, because they trusted me. The others would say, I want to go from 3 to 2 to 1, and I get them there eventually. Or I might have just get them to 2. That might be the only place that they ever that was their stop line in where their taste and where their the fear level was. So
their comfort,
their comfort, yes. So, but anyway, that's kind of what I feel is that's a life skill that's in there, and if you can use that in your associate program prior to telling them what they need to do to get up to what, and here's the biggest thing that I think that it's the hardest part for trainers, is that they have internally, they have a benchmark of what work should look like. Just like, you know, to use your example, you said, I went into a salon, I wanted the round brush with the nice bouncy curls. But if that girl doesn't know what round brush bouncy waves curls are, and what she has to meet up to, then she's floundering. That's why she had to go, well, I usually use an iron and I can get something similar out of that. The point is, what is the salon doing to identify what is the minimum salon standard for a bob? What is the minimum salon standard for a curling iron? It might be a root tong or a spiral tong or beach waves or what, or. And what are all those disciplines, and what is your minimum salon standard? If you can apply that, even if it's just use an old-fashioned lookbook, you know, in our program, sort of our next step that we're adding into it is templates, where you take your pictures, you put them on your template, and that is, I won't say the minimum salon standard, but that's a standard that you expect anybody to reach before they earn a spot at a chair. And I'm going to repeat that again, earn a spot at a chair. It's not an entitlement. I didn't hire you to do this. You have to meet the salon standards. And if I can train you as quickly as possible to get up to that salon standard, I'm helping you grow. And it doesn't work the same. Like when, you know, a few years past, it was, you went under a 6-month to 3-year apprenticeship, making nothing, sweeping the floor. That taught me a lot. But
Sure.
what if I could work ahead? What if I'm an ambitious young person and I know that there's only 1 or 2 training nights a week or training days in the week? I do not subscribe to, that was a slip of the tongue, what I used to do when it was allowed, train after hours. But nowadays you can't do that. They should come in, they need to be paid, your educator needs to be paid, and you train them, but you get them up to speed as quickly as possible. However, as an associate, if I'm ambitious and I want to work ahead, then I can do that. And that's where the difference was, Crystal, is what I find that people want right now is, and what burns educators and salon owners out is, I'm teaching the same thing, and then I get somebody on the floor and they either get caught in that revolving wheel and they go out and I got to train another one, or I grow my business and I got to train another one. And I'm not doing the things that I love to do. Apply the vision that I have for my business and doing hair. And we all know that training happens in what's called a see-do environment. I've got to see it. In other words, salon owner X has to show me how to do that bouncy blow wave or blow dry, blow out. And then I've got to do it. And I have to practice it a few times until I get my standard up to at least what that is or exceed it. Then the owner can go, hey, listen, I'm doing a haircut, and now I can just go and do another haircut. You can do the blow dry, and the stylist, the consumer is just as happy as when you did it. I mean, for those of you right now, I have had 2 trigger fingers that have, from braiding and doing these avant-garde looks, that I screwed up 2 of my fingers in my hand. I just had surgery on them. But when I went there, I was in there for I think it was 3.5 hours. Everybody else took care of me. There had people filling out files, doing all these things, doing this thing. When I went under, I didn't even see the doctor. He talked to me for 2 minutes before we went in, and no regrets.
Yeah.
But when I never saw him at the end, they checked me out. So out of that 3-hour or 4-hour procedure, he did the operation. The operation lasted about 20 minutes. Everybody else took care of me, and that's the way that you turn people into 6-figure stylists. Is you can't do every one of those stages and say, oh, look at what I did. It's how do you compartmentalize? Departmentalize what that's happening? Train my associates so that they can do the blow dry. They can do the root retouch. They can do whatever I need to do so I can move on to my next higher ticket item. That's the way we make money.
Right. And then, in the medical field, just to relate this back, like they have what's known as a standard of care. Right.
Yes.
So there's an assumption that every nurse, every person that worked on you, they understand the standard of care. So you're going to get the same level of care from everybody. And it's interesting that we don't employ that more in the salon, right? A typical standard of whatever you want to call it, standard of hair, right? Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah. Well, it comes from, I'm wondering, and this is not based on fact. It's not based on anything else other than, I think that we've lived in an industry where it's so competitive. It's about, look at my work, as opposed to the salon quality of work. So if I can do an amazing haircut and that's what I want to do, then I can do that. For those people that just want to do, if they're only doing color, great, do the color. I realize nowadays everybody's switching back and forth, but it is stay to what you know. If you don't know it and you want to know it, learn it. But the reality is, whatever you're doing, that cut and color, that's what they came here for you. They came for the highlight. They didn't come to you for the retouch. The retouch can be done by anyway. That's just maintenance. The creativity, the spark came from you to do the transition of the balayage, the highlights, the custom color, the whatever. But, you can get somebody else to apply all those things, do the apprentice. That's now they're contributing back to what their finance is. We did a little study just a little bit back for this show, and we were looking at what the average associate costs you. I based it on that if you had to pay your we always tell the owners should not teach. You if you got to do it at the beginning, great, but you train somebody else so they can take that over. And then we said, if that high ticket item, let's just say they were $100, that your average ticket price with everything included, and I know it's far more than that, but let's just keep it low. That's $400 a week times, say, 50 weeks. That there's that cost. Then that's what you just have to, that's your lost revenue that you would be losing if an educator or the salon owner is teaching the lesson. Then you have to add into that. So you do that plus your 42 weeks. I think it came to, I can't remember what it was. Like, I had the figures here, but I'm just going to let it go. Then you have to pay your minimum wage or whatever that you're going to pay for your associate just for those 4 hours. And then you have to think about what is it that, what are you missing out on? What are the wages you have to pay for both those people? And it ranged anywhere between $16,000 and $29,000 to train an associate over 6 months.
Wow.
So, our mission is, how do you get them on the floor contributing faster so that they're paying for themselves? You're not having to go out of pocket. And to me, that's the biggest thing about the associate program. So we help to train them on what's the standard of the shampoo that you're doing? What's the standard of being able to, even for rinsing out, a foil and a retouch at the same time, so you're not mixing them together. For your blow dries, what is it? And then as you consider past, we always say we don't feel that you should train hair cutting in at least the first month or so of your training. It should be all on the standards for the minimum services that they can contribute to financially, then get them on their cutting program. I had an interesting conversation with a young lady out of Alabama just the other day who's using the program, and she says that we also do, before they can graduate onto the floor, what we do is we have opportunity days, and Saturday is our slowest day. That still freaks me out because in my era, that was always the busiest day.
Yeah.
But she said that that's our opportunity day because it's the slowest day. And that's where we put our juniors on the floor. And they have to do at least just a minimum of 2 clients a week in order to graduate. They have to, and these are people you have to bring in to the fold. And then, and they're paid for services. They're just at a lower rate, et cetera. So in the program that we have quizzes so we can tell that you know the information and you've gone through the information. So the see-do that we do, instead of you doing the see and the associate doing the repeat, we do it with the videos where we train them on the videos in segments of what you do. They do it. And then all the owner or the educator has to do is check their work. So they're still behind the chair. They're still earning money. So the main income that you have to worry about is just how do you get them on the floor quickly so that they're taking over service that the educator or that the senior stylist is doing, so that pays for their wages.
Wow.
Yeah.
Chris, all of this is so great. I've enjoyed all of this conversation. I do feel like some of it is a little bit high level thinking, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like, it's kind of hard to wrap our brains around if this is the first time we've heard this kind of conversation and information happening. So I would love for you, like if I have some listeners that are like associate curious, right? Like maybe they're independent stylists that are ready to take on an assistant, or maybe they're salon owners that are like, hey, this sounds pretty awesome. What would be like step 1 to dip their toes in something like this?
Now you're referring to step 1 as if you want to take on an associate. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Or like if you're going to take on an associate, what's like the best first steps here?
Yeah. Well, to me is assessment. Usually, and this is what I hear from so many people right now, that people are having such a hard time hiring that they want them just to pass the mirror test, and put a mirror underneath your nose. If it fogs, you got the job. The problem is you're bringing in all of the other problems that they've had before. That makes sense? So what we say is you need to assess. And that's one thing about the training program that we have, is that we build in assessments, one of which is what we call a new hire assessment. And inside there, I would hire them because they're going to come from a variety of sources. They're going to come from a school, they're going to come from another salon, or wherever. But you need to know what their level is from the minimum salon standard that you have. So before you hire them, you know where they stand. Now, so many people will say to me, Chris, you handsome devil. See, everybody laughs when I say that too. So we'll just say, so Chris. And what I'd say to them is, look at, get them to come in, and on their first visit, they should do a haircut that includes, a iron work and a blow dry. And here's the kicker. Did they sell any retail? Did they talk about retail? Did they purchase it or not? And when we bring this up, we have a form that you fill out, and you just grade them. Now, this to many is going to sound like, oh, they did bad, so I don't hire. And that's not what this is at all. It's an assessment, so you know what to train on. And you can ask them at the end, are you willing to go through this? Because this is going to be your training program. So just hiring and getting somebody to do stuff can set it up for a consumer, the person that's coming in. And if you're getting them to jump in and do the color service, the blow dry, the whatever, and it doesn't meet your standard, that could be a bye-bye notice. Client goes, oh, well, I'm not, Crystal is just now pawning me off on somebody who doesn't do as good a job. Therefore, my trust and my loyalty has gone away. Okay. So the first step that I would say, assess. Simple assessment. Do it on one visit where they bring in a customer, they bring in a client, they do the cut, the color, the ironwork, the retailing, and you grade them on it. Secondly, they come back for a second visit and they bring in a color client. Could be the one that they did the week before. They have to do a retouch. You're going to ask them to do a foiling, and that they could do that on a mannequin as well. If they can't find somebody to do it, because you want them to do a couple of different patterns. So you find out what their blow dry skills are, what their foiling skills are like. And again, not to fire, but to grade so that you know what your training schedule is with. And here's the other thing is, so many people will bring somebody on and say, you have to know everything before I'm going to grant you access to something, right? At least that's the way when we trained. You had to be good at cutting. You had to be able to do all of this. You had to have your 10 haircuts that you had to do, and you had to do them well. They had to be repeated 10 times so that you showed that you were consistent. And you can't do that anymore. They want to be on the floor. They want to get to it as quickly as possible. So if they can do a shampoo and you graded them on their shampoo, they can do it. Get them doing the shampoos right away. If they can do a color excuse me, I don't remember eating that. Okay. Old jokes. If they can do a proper retouch that meets your standard, get them doing it right away. They don't have to wait the 2 weeks to 3 weeks. Get them to do the skills that they do really well. Get them on the floor, get them participating financially, and then train on the rest. Simple.
Yeah. Man, it's so funny because when you describe it, it sounds so simple. But if you've never even thought about this before, like I've had assistants before too, right? And it was like, I didn't know what I was doing. I just had someone that was curious and wanted to come learn from me. So I was like, sure, come on in. I didn't have any systems. I didn't have any processes. It was just like winging it the whole time. And it was kind of clumsy and it took a long time. So I love that. Chris, I would love for you to tell me if my listeners would like to get a hold of you and learn a little more from you, where can they find you on this big, wide internet?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you. And the best way to do is go to trainersplaybook.com, trainersplaybook.com. And that will give you all of the assets that we do and we have on there. And if they want to go inside there, then inside there, that'll talk about the Salon Associate Program that we have. So, and I believe we have a shortcut to that. And I think if it's just, I'm afraid I'm going to give the wrong information, but I know there's a bit.ly/trainers playbook, I believe is what it's called. And they can go there as well. It's a shortcut to get to it, but it gives all the stuff that we do on there, but that'll take them right to Salon Associate training, and it's on there. And what we've done is we figured out that based on, if you look at that, somebody is training anywhere between $16,000 and $29,000 to train over 6 months. And if you can do that and do that for a price that's marginal on that, like, then it makes it worth your while to have somebody else to do the training and then free up your own time.
Amazing. I will make sure to have links to those in the show notes here to make it simple for everybody. And then last quick question for you here on social media. Are you the one that handles your social media? Like if someone sent you a DM, is it you or do you have an assistant doing that for you?
Yes. I mean, first of all, you're a parent and you take a look at my grizzly beard, my white hair, and you went, no, he probably doesn't do his own. You're very correct on that. I have my peeps look after a lot of that. I do get into some of it when they get to it because they deal with it much faster than I do. But if they DM even at Coach Chris Baran, and that's COACHCHRIS and then BARAN, then that'll get right to this. Either myself or people, and my peeps will take care of them.
Wonderful. Well, Chris, this has been such a pleasure to have you on here. And I feel like we could just spin in circles about this stuff all day long. Cause like, I'm just nodding the whole time as you're talking. Yeah. I'm like, yes, I love it. I love it. It's obvious that you have experience in this industry and that you have some great stuff to share. So I can't wait to get this episode out there for you. And again, just thanks so much for coming on today.
It was absolutely my pleasure.
Awesome. Okay. Well, we'll be in touch and I guess I'll see your peeps on Instagram.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, friend. Well, that's a wrap for this episode of the Your Hair Mentor podcast. It has been my pleasure to be here as your host. Again, my name is Crystal Green. And until next time, my friend, as I always love to say, have a wonderful hair day and I'll see you then. Okay, bye.